An astronaut named Jakub tries to sleep peacefully in his space vessel, but is roused when he hears a noise. Jakub goes to check it out and is shocked when he finds a huge, six-eyed spider glaring at him. Earlier, Jakub walks in a peaceful stream, but stops after something catches his eye. He wakes up from this dream in his space vessel.
Hang on.
After getting called by Peter, Jakub gets on a video call with Peter to report to his superiors, who are running the Eurospace program in Czechoslovakia. Tuma, the commissioner of Eurospace, delivers a small speech about Jakub being at the end of the solar system for 189 days. She sent him there to collect a sample from the Chopra cloud behind Jupiter, which appeared in the atmosphere of the Earth for the last 4 years. Tuma brings Jakub to the video call, and he talks about his latest discoveries regarding the Chopra cloud and shows the world some photographs he took of the cloud. He also promises Tuma and her audience to collect a sample of the cloud and get his mission done in less than a week. Jakub also tells them he might find out the mysteries of the universe through this cloud. Tuma tells him great job and has him answer questions from people around the world. One of those people is a young girl who asks Jakub what it's like to be the loneliest man in the world.
That you're the loneliest man in the world.
Since he's been out all alone in space for 6 months. Jakub says Tuma and Eurospace contact him every day to make sure he's doing fine. He also mentions he talks to his wife Lenka through the light phone, so he's not the loneliest man on the planet. Following this meeting, Eurospace gets a video from Lenka telling Jakub she's leaving him.
I have to leave you.
He left her 6 months ago, and she's done waiting for him. Meanwhile, Jakub's toilet is not working well, so he gets on a call with Peter in Eurospace to have him do something about it. Peter asks Jakub if he got any sleep. Seeing Jakub pale and physically tired, Jakub tells him to just fix the toilet and he'll be fine. Jakub then brings up Lenka and asks Peter if he heard from her. Peter says no, refusing to show him Lenka's video. Meanwhile, Tuma watches Lenka's video and decides not to send it to Jakub.
He's not getting this message.
Even though he's concerned about her. If they do, Jakub's mental well-being will become worse, and he won't carry on his mission perfectly. That's why Tuma decides to visit Lenka and talk to her about it. Jakub wakes up and goes to look himself in the mirror. He gets shocked when he sees something that looks like a spider moving under the skin of his face. Its legs show up from his nose and then from his mouth. Jakub tries pulling it out, but he wakes up from this dream immediately after, screaming in horror.
Ah! Oh!
Jakub then calls Peter, who tells him the cameras in his vessel are dead and need to be fixed. Concerned about his wife, Jakub asks Peter if they can have someone go to his home to check on her. Peter says they'll do their best. A weird voice interrupts the call, which Jakub doesn't recognize, so he asks Peter if someone hacked into their system. Peter says no and tells him they've found out Lenka went to visit her mother. Shortly after, Jakub hears a noise that rouses him from his sleep. He checks it out but finds nothing. Hearing a noise coming from the bathroom, Jakub opens the door only to find a huge six-eyed spider. Jakub panics and shuts the door. He tells Peter to check the cameras, but the cameras are dead. Jakub opens the door again to see if it's real, and it is. The spider speaks English, calls Jakub skinny human, and tells him not to be afraid.
Do not be afraid.
To stay safe from the spider, Jakub locks himself in a small chamber, tells Peter the ship is polluted, and orders him to release decontaminant gas to kill the spider. Peter tells him he doesn't see anything by their sensors, not even a huge spider. Jakub has him release the gas regardless, but the spider disappears in the smoke. Jakub tells Peter he needs to talk to Lenka, but Peter tells him to just focus on the mission. Jakub gets out of the room, only to see the spider is still there as the smoke didn't affect it. It tells Jakub not to worry since it doesn't want to hurt him.
You needn't worry.
To see if the spider is real, Jakub tries to touch him, but it warns him against it and tells Jakub to feel free to take off his suit since it won't hurt him. Jakub asks the spider why it's inside his vessel. The spider tells him it sensed a human presence near it and came to check it out. The spider then tells Jakub it's been watching the Earth and studying human history for a long time. Surprisingly enough, it learned human languages. It can talk like a normal human being and empathize as it tells Jakub it can sense his loneliness. Not sure if the spider is real, Jakub goes to his bedroom and locks himself in, hoping the spider will go away. However, Jakub comes out to find the spider still in the vessel, so he asks it why he's still there. The spider tells him it's here to make Jakub feel less lonely and help him out on his mission. Jakub tells him no thanks, he doesn't need help, and ignores it. Meanwhile, Lenka, who's pregnant with Jakub's child, is at her mother's and opens up to her about her loneliness. She thinks of leaving Jakub, but her mother tells her no, since this is not a good time to do it.
It's a crazy time to leave him.
Considering that Jakub is lonely out in space, and this is the time he needs her support most. Lenka replies she should have left him a long time ago. Meanwhile, Jakub tries to sleep, but wakes up to find the spider going through his stuff in the bathroom. Jakub tells it to get out since this room is off limits.
Get out.
The spider remarks Jakub sets many boundaries, which is what makes him lonely. Jakub then asks the spider where it's from. The spider tells him it has no home since small insects called gorompets killed his whole kind. The spider is the only survivor now, and it's been traveling through galaxies for a long time until it reached the Milky Way, the galaxy where the planet Earth is. The spider then watches the Chopra cloud, calls it the beginning, and tells Jakub it's where the universe began. The spider also can access Jakub's early memories with Lenka and tells him his memories are depressing. Jakub then asks the spider if it has a name.
Do you have a name?
The spider replies it never had a name and tells Jakub to give it one, so Jakub names it Hanuš. Hanuš then goes through Jakub's mind and shows him more of his early memories with Lenka. Hanuš asks Jakub why he doesn't love his wife like he used to in these memories, but Jakub doesn't want to talk about it. Jakub then sees a dead pig floating in the vessel, but he snaps awake and recalls when he was a pig farmer as a teenager alongside his father. As Jakub does his daily routine and runs on the treadmill to keep his bones from decaying, Hanuš asks him about his father. It turns out Jakub's father was an informant for the Communist Party, which is what got him killed later on when Jacob was young. Jacob sees his father as a good man, but feels guilty for the bad things his father did. After hearing this from Jakub, Hanuš figures out why he's on this mission, to atone for his father's sins. That's why Hanuš advises him to let go of this guilt and focus on living his life.
You should focus more on the living.
Given that Jakub will be a father soon. Shortly after, Tuma visits Lenka and confronts her about leaving Jakub and her message. Lenka tells Tuma she left Jakub and got over him, but Tuma tells her she won't deliver her message to Jakub given that he misses her and needs her support, considering he's in a dangerous place. Lenka replies she doesn't care anymore and refuses to help.
I'm sorry, I can't help you.
Saying she didn't send Jakub to space. Tuma advises her to hold on and wait for her husband to come back, since this is the point of relationships, putting up with one another. Meanwhile, Jakub is now 45 hours away from the Chopra cloud. Shortly after, an old recorded conversation between him and Lenka in which she tells him to either choose between being with her or his dream of going beyond Jupiter. Jakub tries hard to turn it off, and it finally does, after a grain from the Chopra cloud comes out of the device. Jakub puts it in a small box to complete his mission out here, so he can finally home. However, Jakub's joy is cut short when that grain goes through the box and flies away. Jakub tries telling Peter about it, but there's no signal and no one answers. Hanuš tells him he's close to getting his mission done. Shortly after, Hanuš asks Jakub why being pregnant stresses his wife. Jakub ignores it.
It doesn't.
But Hanuš shows him a memory of when Lenka had a miscarriage and lost her first child. Jakub was not there for her. She called him and told him to come home to be with her, but Jakub refused. He selfishly lied to her and told her he had an emergency when he just overcooked his eggs before hanging up on her. That explains why Lenka is leaving him. Hanuš tells him Lenka's pregnant and reminds him he's not there for her again. He then asks him why cause her this much pain. Shortly after, Jakub finds a signal and finally gets in touch with Peter. Hanuš interrupts the call and calls Jakub out on his selfishness towards his wife. Through Lenka, Hanuš saw that Jakub only talked to Lenka when it served him and made her fake promises. That's why Hanuš tells Jakub he's no longer interested in him and will leave him all alone in his vessel. Not wanting to be alone again, Jakub begs Hanuš not to go since he needs his help. Hanuš ignores him and is about to leave. Jakub tries stopping him, but Hanuš pins him on the wall before telling Jakub he needs to discover something else about himself, which is much deeper than the Chopra cloud. Hanuš then leaves and disappears from the vessel without a trace. Now Jakub is all alone again and is super devastated at this point. Jakub calls Peter, who tells him everybody in Eurospace is worried about him and the mission since he lost communication with them earlier. Jakub assures him everything is fine and asks him to deliver a message to Lenka.
I want you to go and see Lenka.
Peter tells him no, since their Korean rivals are right behind them. If Jakub gets distracted, the Koreans will beat them to the Chopra. Jakub urges him to deliver the message to Lenka regardless. So Peter visits Lenka. She moved to a home for pregnant women who are alone. He has her hear a recorded message from Jakub telling her he's sorry for being selfish, for leaving her behind to go beyond Jupiter, and for not trying to connect to her on a much deeper level. That message moves Lenka to her chore. Feeling guilty, Jakub breaks into tears and later floats asleep before Hanuš returns to wake him up. Jakub tells him not to leave him alone again. Hanuš reminds him he's getting close to the Chopra cloud and he doesn't want Jakub to face it alone. He wants to be with Jakub when it happens. Hanuš also tells Jakub he's dying, which is why he came back. It turns out Gorompeds infected him, and it's only a matter of time before they finally kill him. Jakub asks Hanuš why he didn't say anything about it. Hanuš replies Jakub never asked or tried to know him better.
You never asked about me.
Jakub extends his hand to Hanuš. Hanuš takes it and hugs Jakub before reminding Jakub to rest since he's entering the Chopra cloud tomorrow. Jakub sleeps like a baby. Hanuš awakes him and reminds him he's closer than ever to the Chopra cloud. Jakub gets in touch with Tuma, and he tells the people on Earth he's grateful for their support. He also dedicates his mission to his people in Czechoslovakia and to his wife Lenka, who's watching him on TV.
And to Lenka, of course.
Tuma also announces that Jakub is about to enter the Chopra cloud. Now, they are closer to the cloud than their Korean rivals. Now that they are about to discover the beginnings of the universe, Hanuš tells Jakub to get ready. Jakub is about to launch and go into the cloud, but something interrupts Jakub's communication with his people at Eurospace. Grains of the Chopra make their way into the ship, and Gorompeds attack Hanuš. Jakub rushes to check on him, but Hanuš is not the vessel. Jakub looks for him only to find him floating in space outside.
Hold on, I'm coming!
To make sure the Gorompeds don't infect Jakub and kill him too. However, Jakub decides to do something selfless for the first time in his life and save Hanuš, ignoring Peter, who's telling him to pull out, save himself, and cancel the mission after the communication in the vessel broke down. Jakub suits up and ignores Peter, who tells him to forget about Chopra. He goes out into space and throws a decontaminant bomb at Hanuš to save him from Gorompeds, but it sends Jakub flying away. Hanuš catches him and tells him his bomb won't kill the Gorompeds, but it will give him a little bit of time before they find him and kill him. Just then, Jakub recalls the time he was about to drown when he was a teenager, but his father saved him soon after. That memory brings Jakub to forgive his father and forgive himself. Jakub thinks this is where his life ends, but Hanuš tells him this is the beginning before taking him to Chopra. At the same time, Lenka finds a small drawing of a lady and man dressed in a spacesuit, reminding her of her relationship with Jakub. Approaching Chopra, Jakub's whole life flashes before him. Hanuš tells him every moment Jakub experienced in his past will end up here in Chopra. Jakub then gets sucked into the cloud and then sees the beginning of his relationship with Lenka. Jakub then realizes he wants to see Lenka and be with her more than anything else. Hanuš's death is about to happen, and Jakub gives him a chocolate jar as an act of gratitude. On his last breaths, Hanuš says thanks to Jakub and tells him he won't die in the Chopra cloud. A bright light beams at Jakub before he tells Hanuš he's feeling fear. Hanuš tells him what he's feeling is the hope of seeing his wife again. Jakub thanks Hanuš for being with him in his loneliness before Hanuš gets eaten by Gorompeds and dies, breaking Jakub's heart, who watches him scatter away. At the same time, Lenka wanders the field in the dead of the night and sees a grain of the Chopra flying up to the sky. She starts feeling the hope of seeing her husband again. Jakub walks in a peaceful stream and finds Lenka sitting on a tree. He then opens his eyes to find a Korean vessel coming to pick him up while on its way to Chopra. Shortly after, Lenka gets a call from Jakub, who tells her if he had then known that she's the one thing that mattered more than going beyond Jupiter, he wouldn't have left her. Lenka smiles and decides to forgive him, sparking her hope of reuniting with him.